I've spoken a lot about leadership, what it means to be a leader, how to interact with people, why certain leadership traits are important. One of the things that I have relied on so much, and one of the things that has made me a better leader, has been my interest in personality types and how different personalities interact with one another. I don't know exactly when I first became interested in personality types. I remember taking the myers-briggs either late high school or early college, and I wasn't really impressed with the results. I think it was because it gave kind of a binary response to a few things that I just felt were more nuanced. There wasn't really any nuance in that letter. Later on, after I had been working in a full-time capacity with other team members, we were able to take the DISC assessment. DISC I found to be a lot more interesting, primarily because there was some nuance to it. There's still 4 quadrants in the DISC, and you can be a D, an I, an S, a C. So I am an SI on the DISC scale. They define as the counselor. So I am likely to understand a problem and perceive the emotional elements of a situation. That's very accurate, and that's one of the things that makes me a very relatable leader when I'm working with people. I can usually understand the emotional elements of the situation before taking any sort of action. It broke down, you're saying this, they're hearing this. It helped me understand one of my seemingly most caustic team members who I just didn't really enjoy going to. My agents didn't enjoy going to this person because he just kind of came across very blunt. If he was asked a question, he would respond sometimes with another question in a way that sounded often very condescending. Why wouldn't you just look at the documentation that we have out there? That's why I have it out there. I wrote it out there, so why wouldn't you just look at that before you came to me? I don't understand why you're bringing When I brought him questions from then on out, do you have time for me to ask you a question, or are you able to answer a quick question for me? This brought it from that, I don't know why he responds to me this way. I don't know why he doesn't respect me enough to understand that I'm not going to bring him a dumb question, to I know how I have to approach him because I know how he likes to be approached. That gained me more respect with him because he knew when I came to him, I would ask if he was interruptible. I have this question. These are the things I've already tried. Okay, I'll take care of it. And I knew he would take care of it because he was that kind of person. He appreciated me coming to him with a list of everything I had already tried. Eventually, it got to the point where he knew that if I was coming to him, I had already done all my due diligence, and I would say, hey, can you take this from me? And he would go, sure, because he knew that he didn't have to ask what I've done up to that point. He knew that I would not hand something to him that I had not fully vetted, that I had not done all the troubleshooting through, that I had not exhausted my options. If I did take it to him and I said, I don't know where to go, and he found something that I could have done, he would then help me, train me, or teach me where to find this thing, so the next time I bring it to him, I could do my due diligence up front. I'm not saying that without the DISC, we wouldn't have been able to interact, but I think the DISC helped me understand how this particular person understood life and approached life, and it also helped me with the rest of my coworkers. I really appreciated the DISC assessment so much that I tried to do it with my agents. It was a little too expensive to run for my team at the time, which was pushing 50 people. We did do something called the Clifton Strengths. I really appreciated the strengths assessment because it broke down certain types based on words, and then it gave definitions on these words. And it brought out your top 5 traits. And what I appreciated about the StrengthsFinder assessment is it gave you all of your traits listed in order of strongest to least strong, but it wouldn't show you the least strong traits because as people, we often want to look at the bottom of the list and see, okay, what am I weakest in? Tend to focus on the negative. But what I liked about the strengths is it gave you really your top 5, and then it gave you the definitions of each one of these words. I started evaluating people's personality types based on how they reacted to me, how they reacted to other things. When I'm training people, and even in the interview, I begin to learn how people like to be approached. There are some people, when I implement a new process, hey everyone, we're gonna do it this way. There are some people who say, okay, do you want to know why we're going to do it this way? No, you said we're going to do it that way. Okay. They'll just take what I say and they'll just do it. But I always left room for people to ask the questions because for every one of the people who just said, okay, and would run with the new process, there were people, I don't like it. And oftentimes they wouldn't actually come out and say, I don't like it. I would say a new process. No one would react because we're all sitting in a room, and for whatever reason, employees in a room don't want to ask the first question. No one would say anything. And there was a group of people who would continue to do the old process. Do you remember us talking about this? Yeah. Okay, why aren't you doing it? Well, I just don't think it makes sense. We were in the meeting. Why didn't you bring it up? Well, I wasn't going to question you in front of everyone. That's not questioning me. Questioning me is saying, I don't think you're a qualified leader to be able to provide us this information. That might be offensive, and yeah, you probably shouldn't say that. But when I say we're going to do it this way, does anyone have any questions? When you implement a process, a policy, a procedure, those are living documents. They have to be changing. But sometimes there are also risks. I would rather implement a new process, a new policy, a new procedure, find out in 3 months, this isn't quite working, let's tweak it, than to not even try and to maintain an old, outdated, antiquated policy, procedure, process that we're doing just because we've always done it that way. If we don't try something new, you're never going to increase productivity or efficiency. So in order to increase productivity and efficiency, sometimes you got to tweak your processes. I came to the point in my leadership career where every time I would introduce a new process or a policy, I would say, are there any questions? Please poke holes in it. I would go to the most contrarian people first. I would write up a policy, I would bring it to them, email it to them. I'd say, hey, this is the policy that we're going to be implementing. React. And they would point out all the problems that they saw. I loved that because sometimes they would point out something. Yeah, that's a great question. I did that because this. Oh, okay, I understand that. Well, this doesn't make sense to me. You know what? I didn't really think about that. Let me come back. Let me think about the whys behind it. So sometimes they gave me something that I had just missed. I'm coming up with these things, but I can't think of every permutation of every option. So especially going to those contrarians who often were people who had been there a long time, the reason they were resistant to change was because they were set in their ways. Me bringing something to them and saying, hey, we're going to try this. What do you think? As long as they would give it an actual look over, a respectful look over, and not say, well, it's stupid because it's different, we would grow this really good relationship, and I would get to test my processes early on and make sure that I gave whys to everything. And I wanted to make sure I had every answer, because if I knew this person was going to have the most questions about it, the most, well, why this, I wanted to make sure I could answer every single thing. And often that gave me the ammunition. I was prepared for every single question because I had already been asked probably the most pointed, specific questions from the most intelligent person in the room. My answers for that person were good enough. I think they're going to be good enough for the rest of the people. When I would introduce a new process, that person became my ally. Someone would ask a question, that person would jump in. I had that question too, but you see, it does make sense because the way he explained it to me is this and this and this. But none of that would have happened if I wasn't cognizant to this person's personality early on. If I didn't tap into that, if I didn't pinpoint this person as that is the guy who's gonna have the questions for me, so that's the person I'm going to use to kind of test out a lot of this communication. Sometimes I'm able to figure out someone's personality type them really quickly. Sometimes they're a bit more nuanced. It helps me understand how to better interact with them. I have done things like sent out a Harry Potter sorting hat quiz to see, okay, are you a Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, or Ravenclaw? Early on, it's just a fun little thing for them to do, but it helps me know kind of where their personality sits, and I can usually take my next step just from that information. In the past, probably 5 to 6 years, one of the personality type tests that has risen to the surface of my interest is the Enneagram. Enneagram puts people on a scale, a 1 to 9 scale. Every number has a different type. So just like in Myers-Briggs, you have a section where is it E for extroverted, I for introverted. You'll have, if you're a 9, you're this way. If you're an 8, you're this way. The Enneagram has been really interesting. It's the most accessible for me to latch onto and to type people and to understand how people interact. There's so many resources. For example, what a healthy one looks like, what an unhealthy one looks like. There's a couple of free Enneagram tests online, and I will send those to my agents and say, hey, can you guys go through this and just tell me what number you came up with? When that agent has an issue, they're having trouble with a certain amount of feedback they've gotten, or they don't understand something, they're struggling through an issue, I can look at their Enneagram type. So you're saying this, is this because you feel this way. Based on what I'm reading from the Enneagram definition, I had one agent who was turning toxic. Wasn't intending to be toxic. This person wasn't a toxic person, just the way they were talking through things, they were kind of starting to breed toxicity. I sat down with this person and told them flat out, you're becoming toxic. Part of what I was able to accomplish with this person was through my understanding of the Enneagram. Based on your personality type on this quiz I had you take, you are going to react to certain things this way. And I had this very honest conversation with this agent. When you hear this, you understand it like this. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And then I was also able to flip it and kind of tell him my perspective on it. When you say they're doing this and you bring something up that I've already said that's not true, but it's stuck in your mind is true, and then you bring it up and you communicate it to other people, well, management feels this way. If I've already told you, hey, that's not true, stop saying that, and I see you saying it again, my personality type takes that as you are doing that because you don't respect me. Because if you did respect me, you would have listened to me and not done the thing I asked you to do. Putting it in that term completely changed his attitude. That's not at all what I intended. I know, I understand what you were trying to do, but you need to understand where I'm coming from and how this looks to me. Is this something that we have to accept, or is this something that we have to change? You bring it to me and it stops. You don't go anywhere else with it. You bring it to me and I will give you the answer. I will bring up the concerns where I'm able. I will change what I can. The things I can't change, this is why I can't change it right now. I might say, I agree with you on that, and I might say, I disagree with you on that. And I believe that me understanding the Enneagram, understanding this person's personality type, helped this agent understand more about himself and grow professionally. I think for all leaders, it would be very important to understand your personality type first. Learn your personality type. If you've had the Myers-Briggs, if you've taken the DISC, you've taken the strengths assessment, you've taken the Enneagram, understand your personality and how you react to other things first, because it's very important to know yourself in this before you start critiquing others. One of the resources that I've come across is a website called crystalknows.com. You can pay for different things through Crystal Knows. They'll actually send assessments to your team or your organization, and they're a really good resource. I knew my DISC, my Myers-Briggs, my Enneagram, and it will put all that together, show you all of these scores in the same place, and you can even print or download a PDF copy. I printed that out and I put it up next to my desk. I'm not hiding my personality type, and I want people to know how to approach me. Knowing personality types is very helpful for leaders. The people on your team might not always react the way you want. It's also really important to understand personality types so you know that you're not giving favorable treatment to the people who think like you. There's always going to be this unconscious bias that we will gravitate towards people who think like us, maybe look like us, act like us, have similar backgrounds than us. It's best to not have a lot of people like you in the same organization. You don't want a room full of people with the same personality type. I have watched organizations essentially tear themselves apart because they promoted all of the same personality type into upper management. Upper management all had the exact same personality type and was not willing to accept anyone else with a different sort of personality type into those sort of management roles. If I was building a team, as much as I might be inclined to really want to bring those people like me who think like me, I would try very hard to bring in differing opinions and differing thoughts. The best way to do that is to have some semblance of knowledge of personality types, be it the Enneagram or the DISC or the Myers-Briggs, the predictive index, the strengths. Building a nuanced team is very important to making sure you get those different perspectives and having a strong team. I think that's true in every level of management. There are certain people I would go to do certain tasks. There are certain people who would specialize in this. There are certain people who are really good at that. I can go on about this for hours and hours. If you're to take one thing from this video, as a leader, as a mentor, as a manager, as a trainer, make sure that you understand how you react to other people, and then try to gain some sort of awareness for other people's personality types and how they interact. Maybe you're just asking them certain questions, leading questions from the Enneagram or the predictive index or the DISC. Maybe you're sending them a Hogwarts house quiz. I have gained a lot of value understanding people's strengths, understanding people's personality types, and understanding how to interact with them. And I hope that I have helped you understand how this might be helpful for you as well, to lead your teams, to interact with your management, even if you are just on a team, regardless of what industry you work in. I hope that this helps you think through that person that you think is always doing something wrong. Maybe they're missing that detail that you don't miss, but they might be catching other details that you miss. It's something that's very good to be aware of, not only in a work environment, but also in your personal life. Hope you found this enjoyable. Please like, subscribe, and you could hit that little bell if you want to be notified of new videos. I am happy to open up conversation and continue conversation in the comment section or on my LinkedIn page. If you have an idea for future videos, I would love to hear it. If you have questions for me, put a question in the comments, shoot me a message on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and I will see what I can come up with. I think it would be really cool to continue the conversation. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for watching.